Hi, and welcome to my year in review for 2022. Today I'll be going over my top 25 films, my bottom 5, and a little bit of a detour into my Letterboxd stats. I wish I could have gotten this video out to you sooner. I just was waiting on a few films to reach streaming, and then maybe they would reach my list. We'll see if they ended up making it later. Let's start it off right now with my bottom 5. At number 5 is Day Shift. Day Shift is a vampire hunter movie starring Jamie Foxx with a poorly overacted villain, and it was like something straight out of a kid's movie, yet it's not a kid's movie, and Snoop Dogg is in this, just so you know, and he is just like phoning it in, kind of, so yeah. At number 4 is Morbius. It's the Fant 4-stick of the Sony Spider-Verse. It just really made me feel as though Sony still doesn't know what they're doing, and maybe they should hand the reins over to Marvel. Although then we wouldn't get things like Spider-Verse, and that would be a very big shame. At number 3 is Moonfall. This was a movie I put out a formal review for on my channel, and at the time I had said it was the worst movie I'd seen in the year, and I think I was over-criticizing it. It's still not a great movie, but it's not something that's the worst of the year. At number 2 is The Man from Toronto. This one I also reviewed for my channel. And honestly, there's another Kevin Hart movie on Netflix that could have made this list if I decided to force myself to suffer through it. That film is Me Time with Kevin Hart and Mark Wahlberg, and I just did not want to suffer through that. I'd heard enough bad reviews from it that I knew it probably would have topped this list. But at number 1 is The Bubble. This is a Judd Apatow comedy. If you don't like Judd Apatow comedies, you won't like this one. Even if you do like Judd Apatow comedies, you probably won't like this one. It was something that didn't really work for me. It had only 2 moments in the entire film that made me at least chuckle, and they were from minor characters that are barely in the movie. And also, there's a lot of just poorly written jokes, and it just came out at a poor time. It's a comedy about COVID and the bubbling of film productions, and it just really came out too late for it to really be even a little bit capitalizing on the relevancy of current events. Now let's move on to my top 25 of the year. At number 25 is Thor: Love and Thunder. This is a movie that I reviewed for my channel as well, and I, over time, have softened my enjoyment of it a little bit. It's just, as I've thought about it a little bit more, I do think upon rewatch I would probably lower it. I already have lowered it a half star, so it's very possible that it could lower even further upon future rewatches. It's not a movie that held up really well in my memory. At number 24 was Elvis. I know some people might want to have this higher on their list, but I felt as though Austin Butler was great, but Tom Hanks' performance really detracted from this movie's quality, and I wish it was more focused on Austin Butler, and you could still have like that character of Colonel Tom Parker, have it played by a different actor, because Tom Hanks did not know what he was doing at all in that, as well as in another movie that he had done, Pinocchio, which I didn't personally see, but I know other people had criticized it for the same reasons. And I really hope they focused more on that character, because that was the best parts of the movie. The Colonel Tom Parker parts were just not the greatest parts of the movie, and they really actually overshadowed in some ways some of the elements of Elvis's story. At number 23 is Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. This is a movie based on a show from the 90s. I'd never watched the show. It was a little bit too early for my time, but I really did enjoy this movie. I think they did a really great job with redeeming Ugly Sonic, and it's a great movie. It's not too long. If you really enjoy that type of 90s humor, but also cartoon humor, then this is a movie that you should probably enjoy and you should check out if you haven't already. At number 22 is The Atom Project. I'm absolutely surprised by how Ryan Reynolds was able to, even though he's playing a very similar character to who he usually plays, him playing off of Walker Scobell really worked well for this movie, and I am looking forward to seeing what he's doing next with Sean Levy, the director of this film, and Free Guy, two films that I really enjoyed, with Deadpool 3. At number 21 is Emergency. This film was on Prime Video. It is a drama. It's a interesting story. I really enjoyed it. I can't remember much about my thoughts on this movie because I saw it way in the early parts of the year, so it's a little bit fuzzy, hazy in my mind, but I really do remember enjoying this movie. And let's move on to number 20. Number 20, I put Where the Crawdads Sing. This one, I'm kind of ashamed I have this high because I feel as though a lot of people were lobbying actual valid criticisms towards the movie. But at the same time, I watched the movie and I was just kind of engrossed by it in a lot of ways. And I don't know why. It was something that I enjoyed. I can't explain why I enjoyed it, but I did. So yeah, I would say I understand if people don't like my ranking or don't take it seriously because I put it on here and at this high level. But yeah, it's something I can't explain. At number 19 is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. This is a film I saw, and one of the earlier interpretations of the Pinocchio story. I do remember my parents telling me they brought me to see the Disney's Pinocchio at one point in the theaters when I was like a baby, but I can't remember it, and I haven't gone back and watched it since. So at some point maybe I will, but I did enjoy this story. I think the animation was great. I think the incorporation of the fascism within the storyline is very interesting. And I absolutely did enjoy this movie. I know other people would have this higher. Some people would say this is the best animated movie of 2022. It didn't really work with me stylistically as much as some of these other films did. I think Guillermo del Toro's style is not something that always works fully for me, but other people it will work a lot better for. It just didn't work as well for me. At number 18 is Spirited. This is something that it's a movie that some people have lobbed criticisms towards. My sister also, we watched it together. She didn't like it as much as I did. I just really enjoyed it. I didn't like the song so much in terms of the singing aspects. I think they overused autotune. And I have listened to the soundtrack since, and it is difficult to deal with the auto-tune, but otherwise I did like this reinterpretation of the classic Christmas Carol tale and just updating it to modern day. You have the character of the Christmas present, who I'm not going to really spoil. You see some of the backstory about his character and how this mantle gets passed on to different people, and how some of the behind the scenes of the afterlife system works in this version of the Christmas Carol. At number 17 is The Menu. This is what I ended up postponing this video for. This one is something that just recently came onto Disney Plus in Canada, and I would have gone to see it in theaters, but I just didn't find the time. My full review is on Letterboxd for this. This was one of those movies that confused me, but I understood it. At the same time, it was hard to really find my thoughts. I could see this going up in the rankings on rewatches. I just couldn't put it higher at this time. At number 16 is Lightyear. I know a lot of people lobbed criticisms at this film as well, of it being, not as good as the other Toy Story movies. And I could agree, at least in terms of the first three. In terms of my feelings on Toy Story 4, I liked Lightyear more than that. I do feel as though it really benefited from me seeing it in theaters in 3D as well. So it really gave you that depth of vision, and it just was a gorgeous film to see. When you see it in 3D, when the characters are looking down in space, you feel like you are in space. You feel the fear. You really are immersed in this film when I saw it in 3D. I really enjoyed it personally. I haven't seen it since it left theaters or since it arrived on Disney Plus. I plan on maybe eventually rewatching it, especially during a Pixar rewatch, and we'll see how I feel about it then. At number 15 is Prey. Prey is a Predator sequel that I had watched actually all the Predator films before watching this one for the first time, and I actually really enjoyed this film. I do want to check it out again, listening to it in the Comanche dub that they have on Disney Plus. I feel as though that would have been a really interesting experience versus watching the English dub of it, or the English version of the film that they released, because the Comanche dub was actually the original idea. I did have a review for this, or a full review for this, on my channel if you're interested. At number 14 is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. This is a film I saw in theaters. I saw it in IMAX. I really enjoyed it. I think it was something that I will definitely be rewatching, and we'll see if it goes up in my personal feelings. I did think the first Black Panther had a lot more going for it than this film. This film had better CGI, but the other film, and only in some ways, the other film I think more worked for me on a story level, and because it's also a shorter film, it felt a lot tighter. But I understand with this film, they had a lot to do. They had to first make sure that it was a great tribute to Chadwick Boseman, which it was. And they also had to launch a new Black Panther and find a way to continue the world of Wakanda, while also bringing in a whole new culture. And they had to add in a whole new character in Ironheart that is spinning off into her own series. So they had a lot of stuff to do, and they were actually surprisingly able to balance it fairly well. At number 13 is Fresh. This was something I was kind of surprised by. I'm not a huge horror fan, as I keep saying, although maybe I am, but this was something that I've heard the director has said is a movie that she specifically made keeping in mind that there's not everybody is gonna like horror, but this is a horror movie that non-horror fans can still enjoy. I think this is a great movie. It's got great actors, and it's something that I would absolutely recommend. I have recommended it to a coworker who also watched it, and they, I believe, enjoyed it as well. At number 12 is Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. This is a heartwarming tale. It's an amazing story. It's got such beautiful characters. I absolutely fell in love with Marcel and his story. I think the mockumentary genre really worked in this film, unlike in another film that came out this year, Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul. Like, that one didn't work well with the mockumentary genre. It was trying to mix mockumentary and drama. This one stuck to its guns and did full-on mockumentary. And I know some people are saying it's also got a possibility at the Best Animation Oscar. I personally wouldn't have made it eligible, considering a lot of it is like live action, but I guess because your main character Marcel is animated and some of these other characters are animated, it makes sense that it could fit in that Best Animated. I guess there was just enough animation to consider it. At number 11 is See How They Run. This was a underappreciated and underseen murder mystery. It's got a great cast, a great story, great framing, and great ways they actually used multiple shots and multiple camera angles within the screen, and I found a lot of enjoyment out of it. If you like murder mysteries stories like Agatha Christie style, or Knives Out or Glass Onion, I think you should absolutely check this out. This will be worth your time. At number 10 is Avatar: The Way of Water. This is a film that some people would have had. I've seen with it at number 2. I've seen some people probably put it like really a lot lower. It's something that I felt is a great experience of a film. As you can see, I've got the Avatar IMAX 3D poster in behind me. I did see that in September, and then I watched this. And I think the HFR didn't really work for me. I did want to go back and see it without the HFR and see if it would improve before I had made this, but I didn't have the time to go see a 3-hour and 14-minute movie. But it is something that I actually appreciated. I think the story is about on par with the original, maybe even just slightly better. And I really am excited to see where this franchise goes. I'm really excited to see what James Cameron does with 3, 4, 5. Like, this reinvigorated my love for Avatar. I had never actually seen the original in theaters until this September. So this one was a great thing to see, and I'm glad that he's going to be making more of these because they are visually stunning. At number 9 is The Batman. This was a film I made a 10-minute review of that barely anybody saw, and I'm kind of disappointed by that because I put a lot of work in that review. But I understand, I'm a smaller creator. Not many people know me and know my thoughts, especially at that time. I'd only been doing it for a month, and most of my other reviews were director reviews and stuff like that. They didn't really garner a lot of support or a lot of views. So, if you want to see my reviews, my thoughts on this film, The Batman, please watch that video. I have rewatched this movie and I still enjoy it. I think as a Batman movie, it's not my favorite Batman movie. It is definitely within the top 3, but it's not my favorite. I like Batman Begins and The Dark Knight a little bit more. At number 8 is Barbarian. Again, another horror film, and in the top 10 no less. It's the first time I had seen a horror film and it made me scream out loud. It was actually like a frightening movie for me, and I was watching it late at night. I was worried I'd woken up somebody else in my house, but it was something that was really kind of unexpected. You have these 3 different stories, and they were kind of able to weave them together in such a way that was really brilliant. And also, like, the actual scares, the frightening moments is not all jump scares. It's like just the situation, the idea of being in this environment, being in this world is just incredibly insane. If you have a chance, if you haven't seen this movie, if you like horror movies, I would say go see this. If you don't like horror movies, I'd say be very cautious if you do go see this movie. It's, I believe, on Disney Plus in Canada. I don't know where it is on streaming services in the US though. So please, just try to find it however you can. At number 7 is The Banshees of Inisherin. This was one that I saw very late in the year. I think I saw it on the second last day of the year. It had been getting a lot of buzz, and I was like, oh, it's now on Disney Plus in Canada, as a lot of these films ended up being. I think a lot of these films are from Fox or from Searchlight Pictures, so that's why they ended up on Disney Plus in Canada. But this film was actually really interesting, and it's a beautiful location in Northern Ireland, and it's so simple in the fact that it's a story about 2 friends. One of them wants to be friends and the other doesn't, and the lengths that this guy is going to try to figure out why. And just how the story all unfolds is just really actually so simple but so brilliant. And it's not something that it was that long of a movie, and it's something that absolutely I would say check out if you're interested. It's not a hard watch. It's a very entertaining film. So yeah, go check it out. At number 6 is Turning Red. Turning Red is a film I saw with my sister and mother, and I actually made a review for this movie on my channel. And at the time I had said I thought it was going to be the best animated picture winner for 2023. And I don't know that that's going to be the case anymore, honestly. It was something that I still think is my favorite animated movie of the year, but I don't think it's necessarily going to win. I think Marcel the Shell with Shoes On and Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio has been picking up a lot more steam. This is just not one of Pixar's years, and that happens every so often. We'll have to see what happens in this next year when you've got Elemental, you've got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, you've got so many other animated films that could potentially be animated Oscar winners. Now, before we get into my top 5, I'm going to take a brief detour into my Letterboxd stats for the year. If you want, you can skip over it. I'll be having chapter differences set up in there, so you can just skip to the top 5 if you're not interested. But if you are, I'm going to give you a brief overview, and there's more on actual Letterboxd. My profile is in my end card. I also have a link to it on my channel page. So I'm just going to start with a bit of a breakdown of the number of different types of films that I watched. So I watched 40 short films. I watched 6 limited series and logged them on Letterboxd. They don't have too many of them on there, so a lot of them ended up being things that were from Marvel or Star Wars. So I would hope to see maybe some more limited series maybe over the next year, but it's just kind of hard to keep up with that as well as film. I watched and rewatched 263 films this year. I had 222 first-time watches. I had 65 films total from 2022. I had 12 documentaries and 20 if you included shorts. When it comes to my most watched actors, the top is Bill Murray with 10 films. Then it's Spike Lee with 9 films. And tied for third is John Turturro, Adrian Brody, Owen Wilson, and Willem Dafoe. For most watched directors, Spike Lee was number 1 with 18 films. Paul Thomas Anderson, David Fincher, and Wes Anderson are tied for second place with 9 films, and in number 5 is Steve McQueen at 8 films. The film I watched with the highest average on Letterboxd is Seven Samurai, with an average of 4.5. The film with the lowest average that I watched this year was The Bubble, my least favorite movie of the year, with a 1.9 average rating. The most popular film I watched this year, for a while and near the end, it was supposed to be Fight Club, and then right at the last second of the year, it switched over to Knives Out. I think a lot of people were watching it in preparation for Glass Onion. The most obscure film I watched this year was a short film that I watched out of Drift, Durham Region International Film Festival, called One of Those Good Lives. I definitely recommend checking it out if you can find it, although a lot of these short films are very hard to find. Now let's get back to our ranking. So we have now reached the top 5. At number 5 is Nope. I saw this movie in theaters in IMAX, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great film. I know a lot of people don't love Jordan Peele's filmmaking, and they have especially criticized this film and his earlier work, Get Out. I think this is better than his previous film, Us. I do still personally enjoy Get Out more, but I think this is a great addition to his filmography, and I personally bought it. I enjoy that they, with the home release, tried to preserve the aspect ratios. This is something that some other studios haven't done, like Warner Bros. With Dune, and I found that to be very disappointing. And hopefully more studios do this and preserve the IMAX ratios for home releases. At number 4 is Top Gun Maverick. This is a film I really enjoyed. I saw it twice in theaters, once in IMAX, once in D-Box. I would not recommend going to see it in D-Box, or probably any other movies. After this experience, I didn't find as much enjoyment as I had in previous experiences with D-Box. And honestly, I think with this film, you had to have seen it in IMAX to really get everything, because it does use the IMAX ratios. The D-Box and Ultra AVX and things like that do not actually use the IMAX ratios. So it's not achieving everything that the directors and the main actor in this film, Tom Cruise, would have wanted out of your experience, because he's a strong believer in IMAX filmmaking. And make sure to turn off your motion smoothing on your HD TVs. At number 3 is the last film I watched of the year, and I'm really glad to say I've seen it now. It is Triple R. It is a film from India. It is something that a lot of people had been recommending throughout the year, and I never really ended up checking it out. I kept pushing it off, and then I decided, you know what? I'm going to watch this film to cap off the year, and it was amazing. It was something that I enjoyed thoroughly. Most of the time, my eyes were like wide open. I had my jaw dropping multiple times. It was just an ecstatic experience. I definitely will be trying to check it out if I can see it in theaters at some point before Oscar season. And I do think it's going to be nominated. I do think it has a chance. It is my choice for what I would think is probably going to win the Best International Feature if it's nominated, and definitely has a shot, a small chance, but a chance, nonetheless, of being the best picture winner of the year, in my opinion. At number 2 is Glass Onion. It's something that I found I enjoyed almost, if not just as much as the original film, Knives Out. I know some people have said they still prefer Knives Out. I do have a little bit of a nitpick with that film, specifically them showing puke on screen. And that's something that usually I have a problem with. In this case, it was a narrative decision and it was a narrative reason, so it's I'm a little bit more forgiving about that. But this film is just as well crafted, and it is very much a film where you've got the way it's edited, it's like there's layers. You really can see the layers, but then at the same time, it's clearly pointing towards the center. It really embodies its title, Glass Onion. And at number 1, my favorite film of the year, and my new all-time favorite movie, It's Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is something that I reviewed on this channel. I really, really enjoyed this film. I thought the action was great. I thought the visual effects were great. I thought the acting was amazing. I just adored this movie for the insanity that it was. I really need to see this in theaters as well. I bought it without having seen it just because I knew a lot of people had been giving all sorts of praise to this movie. And I saw, hey, I was making an order on Walmart and bought this exclusive cover version, because that's what I live for. I live for buying these exclusive covers and collectible items. So I bought it and then I watched it at home and it was amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. If you have not seen it, go watch it. It's on Prime Video right now in Canada. I don't know where it is in the States or anywhere else around the world, but definitely check it out. Thank you for watching this video. I will be releasing this list and an update to all my other yearly favorite lists from 2003 through 2022 on Letterboxd. I will put a link in the description down below with all the lists in there. So please check that out if you're interested. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more from me, hit the subscribe button. I will be releasing a video likely on Sunday morning of my most anticipated movies of 2023. So stay tuned for that. I haven't seen every movie of 2022. So if there's a movie that I haven't mentioned, then please leave it in the comments down below. I'll let you know if I've seen it or not, and my thoughts on it if I have seen it. Thanks again for watching, and let's continue to enjoy film together.